So great to be here with all of you. This is such a beautiful event. Thanks to BrainMind for putting this together and giving us a little bit of a cocoon to come together to be in a creative spirit. And thank you for the grant as well. So today I'm going to talk to you about putting equanimity at the heart of neurotech. Obviously, we have a lot of people in our country who are in need of help, and we have an innovation boom happening in this country. So this is Neurotech in the center, all the sort of centers at universities, the investors of neurotech companies, and the companies that are developing neurotech, many of which are here today. What I'm going to argue here is that putting equanimity at the heart of this revolution will move us towards some of the health outcomes that we're really hoping to achieve. I like to look at nature, to look for metaphors in the work that we're doing. And when you ask what makes an ecosystem healthy in the ecological sciences, you get certain principles like homeostatic adjustability. You get ideas like each of the parts of these systems have to be working dynamically and adaptively, as we heard in the last talk, to be able to deal with stresses, to be able to deal with change, environmental changes, for example. And we see these types of principles all through our cultures. So obviously with the yin and the yang, we have opposing forces that when in motion are balancing each other out. And I want you to hold that concept in mind as I talk about the nervous system. You can think of the nervous system like an adaptive ecosystem as well. And in certain cases, like in depression, certain parts of the system can take up too much energy. So in depression, there's an imbalance in rumination, for example. And we see, and this is of course a gross analogy, but when people are feeling better, the system looks more balanced. More energy is dispersed throughout the system. Now, when you look to the inner system in the contemplative neurosciences, which is where my lab is, we talk about something called equanimity, which essentially means openness and acceptance to all experiences. Now, this doesn't mean that you're always calm or you're always happy or you're totally dull and you're never in action. It actually means when you experience something like pain, you're fully experiencing that, right? And you're moving to action as full as possible. So you're not resisting it, you're not pushing it away. My collaborator, Shenzhen Yang, likes to say, you're not a victim of the tyranny of next. You're actually living in the power of now. And so we know in the literature, there's some great studies out of David Creswell's lab at Carnegie Mellon, that equanimity may be a moderating factor that when it's developed as a skill is leading to some of the health outcomes that we're really interested in developing. So we're using one form of neurotechnology called transcranial ultrasound in our lab. Basically, a low energy form of ultrasound can be focused in the brain and modulate different brain networks. And we're targeting different networks that we believe are involved in developing equanimity as a skill, but also as a state. You might have seen Judd Brewer's talk yesterday, so he's done some beautiful work showing that the default mode network might be related to these states and traits of equanimity. I don't have time to get into this, but we published a couple studies recently showing that we can change the state, so the phenomenology or experience of a person, in the direction that looks like equanimity. Now, sidebar, it's really hard to measure in the lab. We can talk about that later. But we are showing that by targeting the default mode network, we can change these systems and enhance the baseline state of equanimity. But the question is not about the state, but can we move to a trait so that the person can use these skills in their lives to adaptively deal with stress? And so we've started combining focused ultrasound with app-based mindfulness training with non-meditators in the lab. We're writing this up right now. We're very excited about this. And we've shown that over 4 sessions of ultrasound plus 2 weeks of app-based training, that non-meditators can actually get some of the boost in both the brain and the subjective states that we're interested in. And I'm really excited about this one. We actually found that people sat 3 or 4 times as long on the meditation pillow when they got real stimulation versus placebo. So of course, if you're trying to acquire a skill, the more that you practice, the more you're going to get that skill. And we've just now completed a 10-day Vipassana-style meditation retreat, so the first actual retreat where people are going to a center, they're doing meditation in silence for basically 10 days, and they're getting a couple doses of ultrasound. And again, we're looking at those health outcomes. So not only does it help with the practice, does it increase things like insight, but does that translate to the long-term health outcomes that we're really interested in? And so what we're doing now is putting this concept of equanimity and the cultivation of this skill at the heart of all the tech stack that we're developing. And so we've got the transcranial ultrasound, the TUS, we've got the research, the retreats, both as app-based as also in person. But now we want to add some other tech into the stack. So we're working on conversational LLMs that actually talk to the patient or the participant before they even come into any of this. They start learning about equanimity and openness and how this will transform their lives. And then they have that conversational bot all throughout the rest of the intervention with us. And then if we don't have people moving towards connection to humans and ultimately action, then we're failing at this. So the last step is moving to human support and human connection. If you saw the talk from Union yesterday, the hope is we have certain social networks like that connect people in, because as they start having their lives changed by something like equanimity, they want to talk about it, they want to figure out how to go deal with some of the problems like climate change, and they want to do that in a positive way that reduces suffering. So putting equanimity there at the heart then should ultimately enable well-being broadly and deeply defined in people's lives. All right, thank you.